Want to be featured on the Rock Metal Podcast just like all the other great bands you've heard up to this point? Go ahead and hit me up, therockmetalpodcast@gmail.com. Let me know. Let's work out the deets. The Rock Metal Podcast, episode 36 with Rock Alliance. All right, Rock Metal Nation, I've got on the line today Rock Alliance, a rock genre music project that features musicians from around the globe, headquartered in Canada. I'm super stoked to have them on. Today I'm joined by members of Rock Alliance, Stuart and Eric. Stuart and Eric, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having us, John.
Yeah, John.
Absolutely. Why don't you guys tell Rock Metal Nation a bit about yourselves, maybe what inspired you guys to get into music?
Personally, it's just kind of something you're born with, something you naturally gravitate to. I think I could speak for just about any musician that it's a lot of work picking up an instrument and trying to, first of all, make any organized sound out of it. And then you're also drawn later on to different genres of music, namely, rock and roll is kind of cool when you're in high school because it draws all that attention and you can express yourself, and it's a good outlet too for what you're going through as a teenager, and then you just kind of mature and develop as an artist as time goes.
What is the story behind how you guys found each other?
Well, basically, Cochrane here is a very small town, so naturally musicians tend to gravitate towards each other out of, number one, necessity, because, you're looking for other musicians to get a band together, and then different venues that you play at. Stuart was in, a lot of bands, different incarnations. So was I. So you tend to just hop on stage and jam and start up some conversations, and you find a lot of middle ground. So basically, it's just your regular musician meets other musician type story.
All right. And then with regard to, the global effort, what inspired that?
I'll let Stuart kind of his brainchild a bit.
I guess it's just like the thing that I liked the most was working with different musicians, because like a lot of times when you're playing in a band, like your music will always sound the same. So it just kind of was an idea that like trying to add like new musicians every time we had like a new song that was we wrote. So that's kind of how we started getting other people on board and stuff like that.
Oh, very cool. Now, it may be self-explanatory, Rock Alliance, but I'm curious, what inspired the name Rock Alliance?
Well, it's like rock genre music and just an alliance of musicians.
Yeah, musicians from around the world, around the globe, like-minded individuals. Basically, like you say, it's kind of self-explanatory, an alliance of rock musicians coming together for one goal, and that's just basically rocking out and having a good time.
Beauty. Now, very interesting question, because I'm curious, when you guys get together to write songs, is there like a core group that writes and others contribute, or what's that process look like when Rock Alliance produces a track?
Well, typically, how we started, because Stuart, of course, I come in a little later. Basically, he's the musical brains behind the whole thing, where he'll painstakingly come up with a music track or a music bed, and basically a lot of the parts are already there, and then he'll kind of hand it off, in this case, or in a lot of cases, to myself. And then I'll find some vocal melodies, lyrics to it. And then, if there's an arrangement to be made, I guess it gets into that process. And then that music gets handed out to, whoever is up next, a guest musician, whether it be a guy like Kenny Aronoff or Jason Pierce or, Marco Brissett, just for examples. And then they'll come in here, and kind of not necessarily that they put their any writing on it, but they'll put their spin, their sound, their signature mark, and it's bounced back and forth that way until we actually have a song down.
Very cool, very cool. Let's go and listen to the first track, Rock and Roll Resurrection. Okay, coming back from Rock and Roll Resurrection, what is the story or inspiration behind Rock and Roll Resurrection?
Well, I guess because I wrote the lyrics, I'll get in there. Basically, well, Rock Alliance, like again, self-explanatory, and so there's a lot of dissing going on about rock as a genre right now, namely people like Gene Simmons, who basically made a living out of rock and roll. Has gone on record saying that rock and roll is dead. You get guys like Kanye West claiming he's the new rock and roll, all this kind of stuff. And when you look deep down, grassroots, rock and roll is alive and well. And basically, we just like to be part of a rock and roll resurrection of some kind, and just kind of bring it out of the grassroots again and back in the forefront. Unfortunately, it's one of the genres of music that's gotten very little corporate support. It's been kind of left on the wayside, I guess, because rock bands tend to be a little more independent, a little more volatile, a little more out of control, and you can't really sit and manage them like you do with some artists now, with all the American Idol and cookie cutter artists that I like to call, where they find a certain formula, and then as soon as there's a successful group, there's a whole bunch of copycats out there. So basically, rock and roll resurrection is to bring that spirit back into the forefront.
Yeah, bring that spirit back out of the grassroots and back into the forefront was, I believe, something that was coined out of that, and I really enjoyed that phrase, out of the grassroots and back into the forefront. Very cool stuff. Let's go listen to the next track. Speaking of bringing it to the forefront, Radio. All right, coming back from the track radio. Now, is it what I'm imagining that it's now back on the radio in the mainstream?
That's the goal, but
or is this like a ham radio in your backyard when you were a kid? Like, what, you know what I'm saying?
Exactly. That's the inspiration. Basically, I will not reveal my age out of secrecy. No, just kidding. But growing up, I mean, it's safe to say that what the internet basically was made more available, I'd say, in the mid-'90s. Well, you know, we grew up a little before then, so there was no internet and there was no instantaneous, I want a song, I'll get it now. So basically, how you were exposed to music of any kind is the old-fashioned way. You just turn the radio on and you would listen for hours, this new music. And I remember a lot of AM stations back then, so reception would come out loud and clear after dark, and then you'd get all these stations from far away places, you know, and it was kind of cool, and you'd hear all these artists that you wouldn't hear on your local radio station. And basically that song's just inspired by radio as a medium, as a classic way of being exposed to music and a celebration of the uniqueness of the format back then.
Yeah, no, I'm not that old. I'm 32. I guess it depends on who you're talking to, but I've got a son now who is 2.5, and I'm looking at the world that he's growing up in, which even 30 years ago was vastly different. If I wanted to watch a music video, I had to wait for it to play on MTV. If I wanted to listen to a song, I had to wait for it to come on the radio, whereas now he can watch anything he wants at whenever he wants. I don't know how many times I've watched Zootopia. I have the whole movie memorized. Because he doesn't have to wait for it anymore. He just gets it whenever he wants. And no, I like that. Inspired by radio is a classic way of being exposed to music and a celebration of the uniqueness of that medium, because it is very true that very quickly life has changed for lots of things with regards to music, how we produce music, how we listen to music, find music. Now I can create this podcast and connect with classy gents such as yourselves, and now we've got listeners who can listen to Rock and Roll Resurrection and radio and hopefully be inspired by some of the nostalgia that you're producing. Now, I'm curious, what exciting news does Rock Alliance have for Rock Metal Nation?
I guess the biggest news is just the tracks are slowly gaining momentum. I know that they've been broadcast across the pond also in Europe, the UK. We've been fortunate enough to, have an album coming out soon. We have doing the final mix and mastering of the remaining tracks, and we'll go old school. We'll have it out on CD as well as available for download on the different music platforms that are available out there. Because we do have a lot of old school people that are asking for the physical CD, believe it or not. You still get a lot of, and it is technically, it is a better quality having that wave format. If you're an audiophile such as I am, I'm a big vinyl freak and whatnot. So I prefer buying a CD than downloading. Downloading's nice for portability, but so that's some good news that way there.
All right, it's Rock Metal Nation. We've got some tracks slowly gaining momentum, being broadcast across the pond. So obviously, if you are listening across the pond, then you're already there. However, we are in North America, so you are across from us. It's kind of weird thinking about that all of a sudden. But either way, definitely going to be having an album coming out soon. Currently doing the final mix and mastering of the tracks that remain to be mixed and mastered. And for those who love holding a physical CD in your hand, it's going to be out on CD. And for those of you who prefer the digital download, it's going to be available both ways. How can Rock Metal Nation find out more about you guys? Is there a website that they should go to?
Yes, we do. We have a website, www.rockalliance.ca. There are some photos, some recent news, videos, songs, and right now for a limited time, we have Rock and Roll Resurrection available as a free download for anybody that would like to check it out, get more familiar with our stuff. You're more than welcome.
All right, I dig it. So, Rock Metal Nation, go ahead and head over to rockalliance.ca. There you'll find photos, recent news, videos, songs, and for a limited time, Rock and Roll Resurrection, which is the first track that we heard here today, is going to be available for a free download. So if you dug that track, definitely go over to rockalliance.ca, pick it up for free, and then find out more information about Rock Alliance, because we've got some really cool stuff coming down the pipeline. Now, Stuart, Eric, unless there's anything else you want to throw out there, I just wanted to thank you for taking time out of your day to come onto the show and share Rock Alliance with Rock Metal Nation.
I really, I guess on behalf both of ourselves, we really appreciate your interest in our music and the opportunity to be featured with you, John. This is great. We thank you, and people like you to keep that rock alive.
Rock Metal Nation, hopefully you just found your new favorite band in Rock Alliance. Big thanks again for them for coming on and sharing their music with us. Make sure to head over to www.therockmetalpodcast.ca to check out all the information from the show you just heard today. And until then, rock on, Rock Metal Nation.